Religious folks tend to find that God has a sense of humor, and for those living in the state of Oklahoma, man, he has been hilarious recently. What up, beasts? Welcome to What Dudes Want to Hear after week 4 of the college football season. And where else would we start it off other than the state of Oklahoma? And I don't say Oklahoma State, I don't say Oklahoma. I say the state of Oklahoma because it has been turned upside down these past couple days. Let's get into it. Mike Gundy, Oklahoma State head coach, has been fired. He took State to a bowl game from 2006 to 2023, and all of a sudden, he's just gone. Unfortunately, it appears that he wasn't able to fully adjust to this new era of the NIL, of paying players, of making sure that recruiting is going your way both in the transfer portal and through high school. And it's really unfortunate because at the end of the day, I believe that if coaching football nowadays strictly came down to just coaching football, why wouldn't Mike Gundy have a place at at the seat of college football? And while he has expressed interest in coaching again, I am afraid that I don't understand what kind of job prospects he's going to have. I mean, obviously, programs are going to be looking for a guy like Mike Gundy, especially those that haven't had great luck over the years. But if he's not willing to adjust his standards of getting guys in the door and getting those guys paid, it makes you wonder, where does a guy like Mike Gundy fit in today's college football landscape? So that's just something to think about. And this is a coach that not only has had sustained success at a program that hasn't necessarily been known for success. This is a guy that, again, he took Oklahoma State to a bowl game from 2006 to 2023. This is a program that wasn't on top of the world and looked like it was going to be on top of the world after Oklahoma and Texas left for the SEC. It looked like Oklahoma State, it was their conference to lose. And then all of a sudden, implosion came falling down like the Twin Towers. Bad joke, I know. But still, you understand what I mean. And just to honor Mike Gundy, let's go ahead and roll one of the best clips of all time that he was a part of. Roll it.
And then you want to write articles about guys that don't do things right and downgrade them, the ones that do make plays. Are you kidding me? Where are we at in society today? Come after me. I'm a man. I'm 40. I'm not a kid. Write something about me or our coaches. Don't write about a kid that does everything right, that's heart's broken, and then say that the coaches said he was scared. That ain't true.
I'm a man, I'm 40, will forever live on in our hearts. Thank you, Mike Gundy, for that speech. But Oklahoma State isn't the only team in Oklahoma that has had some drama this week. This week, John Mateer went down with an injury. John Mateer is the quarterback at the University of Oklahoma and was also the Heisman frontrunner coming into this week. Tuesday morning, Brent Venables announced that he had broken a bone in his hand, and Wednesday, he was flighted to LA where he received surgery on that hand by Dr. Shin, a surgeon who has done surgeries for many athletes across America. And I have never seen a fan base put as much faith into a surgeon as Oklahoma. Oklahoma fans are currently making edits for a surgeon who lives in LA. And LA happens to be where Lincoln Riley is currently coaching, so that's really saying something. And so obviously it's always unfortunate when the Heisman favorite goes down. You don't like to see it as an Oklahoma fan. You don't like to see it as a Texas fan or a Missouri fan or a South Carolina fan for that matter. So prayers up to John Mateer, but we'll see where he's able to come back. So a lot of positive reports from the Oklahoma side have stated that he could be back in a month. Do I necessarily believe that to be the case? I'm not sure. Generally for hand injuries, especially in the throwing hand of a quarterback, you always have to worry a little bit about where to go from here. And with that being said, they do have a backup that has had playing experience. Michael Hawkins Jr., a four-star coming out of high school, started multiple games as a freshman last year. Actually, last year when Oklahoma played Tennessee, it was Michael Hawkins Jr. who came into the game when Jackson Arnold couldn't put anything on the board, and he led Oklahoma to getting 2 touchdowns late in the game. So Michael Hawkins Jr. has the ability to lead a team. I'm just really interested to see if he's able to fit into this new Ben Arbuckle offense, because whenever Michael Hawkins Jr. was playing in the Temple game, he was let in on some drives down the stretch of that game after John Mateer had basically blown him out already, and he didn't look amazing. However, I think with a little bit of time to know that, all right, we've got a week and a half before we play Kent State, and then we've got a week after that until we play Texas, that does provide Michael Hawkins Jr. a little bit of time to get a little bit more familiar with the system. It gets him time to work with the starters. It gets him time to start leading a team that was completely another guy's team a week ago. So we will see how he's able to play against Kent State. I'm not overly confident in his ability to just absolutely go light the field on fire, but I am confident in his ability to hold down the team until John Mateer gets back. So rough blow for Oklahoma fans, both for Oklahoma State and the University of Oklahoma. But speaking of Oklahoma, let's get to what happened in college football this last week. So this last week, Oklahoma beat Auburn in Norman. This is coming a year after Oklahoma beat Auburn in Auburn. So let's break it down. So obviously the main story coming out of this game was the refs screwed the game. All over Auburn Twitter right now, you're saying, the refs screwed us. The refs did us dirty. But at the end of the day, ref ball unfortunately affects both teams whenever you're playing a football game. There are missed calls on both sides of the field, and do I think that more pass interference should have been called on Oklahoma? Yes. Do I think there were some questionable calls, specifically with the fumble, specifically with pass interference? Yes. But both sides are going to be affected when refs are screwing up. That's just how football works. Also, you need to realize that Oklahoma had 10 sacks in this game. And when a team sets a school record in sacks, specifically a blue blood team that has 7 national championships and 7 Heisman winners, that's generally telling of what happened in the game. And if we're thinking about this game, okay, Oklahoma's defense looked solid. They stuffed Jackson Arnold at every chance they got. You still got to remember that John Mateer was Oklahoma's leading rusher in this game. Oklahoma still hasn't found a way to run the ball yet without anybody with Mateer on their back nameplate. And so that is a frustrating thing to see as an Oklahoma fan. And so going into the bye week, going into the game next week, Oklahoma fans are really wanting to see whether they can run the ball. They just got a guy out of Cal that's supposed to be able to run the ball. They've got Torrey Blaylock who's supposed to be able to run the ball. They have a deep running back room, but they just have not been able to put cleats to grass currently. And so they need to find how to do that if they want to have a chance against Texas, if they want to have a chance the week after against South Carolina. It's an unhealthy identity to throw the ball all game whenever you don't have a run game. That's just the way it is. So yeah, Oklahoma needs to find their run game. And just kind of breaking this game down a little bit more, special teams was a nightmare for Auburn. The first touchdown Oklahoma scored was because of a special teams blunder for Auburn. They just couldn't get it going. And Auburn's brightest spot was Cam Coleman. That kid looks like an alien. He looks like Slender Man out on the field. He was cooking DBs. He was cooking safeties. If Jackson Arnold threw the ball maybe a half a second quicker or with a touch more accuracy, I see no reason why Auburn couldn't have won this game by 2 touchdowns. And so just thinking about that, it's a rough break for Auburn, especially since Jackson Arnold just wasn't up to what he should have been, or what a lot of Auburn fans were expecting after the Baylor win. So frustrating break for Auburn, and they go into a pretty tough game this next week. So we'll break that down coming up as well. Miami beat Florida this weekend. If you had turned this game off after the first half, I wouldn't have blamed you, but they still had to play the game, and Miami still came out on top after two halves. And so Carson Beck came in, did exactly what he needed to do as a quarterback. He wasn't trying to play hero ball. He wasn't trying to go to last year where Cam Ward had to strap that Batman cape on his back and laser beam his eyes down the field. No, they were able to rely on the run game. They were able to rely on the defense, and their defense is solid, which was a major change from last season. They only allowed 141 yards, and Florida did not convert a single third down. Whenever you're not able to convert a third down, obviously that pushes you to either fourth down, a field goal, or your SOL, and Florida looked SOL a lot of times last night. And they now dropped to a 1-3 record, which is pretty unfortunate for them. But we don't love talking about losers. We love talking about winners. And with Miami's upcoming schedule, they have a bye, and then they play at Florida State. I believe this could be one of the biggest swing games of the year. And I'm not just talking about ACC championship picture. I'm talking about national championship picture. I'm talking about playoff picture. Either quarterback who wins in Miami versus Florida could win the Heisman this year. Let me repeat that one more time. If Thomas Castellanos or Carson Beck wins this game in 2 weeks, they will be in New York in December. Book it. This is a game where an unstoppable force will be meeting an immovable object. And guys, that's what they invented beer for. That's why you watch on a Saturday. So really excited for that game. But that's in 2 weeks, not this week. And we still need to talk about what's relevant. Indiana blew out Illinois. This was a nearly perfect game from Fernando Mendoza. He threw for 5 touchdowns, and Indiana had 579 yards of total offense. Indiana converted on 80% of their third downs, and Illinois only converted on 1. When I was watching this game, Indiana is looking like they're playing with a chip on their shoulder, and Illinois just could not tackle them. This kind of looked like whenever the older brother in the family is out in the backyard and he's having a great time with his buddies, and the little brother comes out and he's like, "Hey, I want to play. Me and my buddies want to play." And the older brother's like, "Man, sure, pal, come on out." And the older brother just runs through the first one, runs through the second one. And then they're dancing out in the celebration. "Hey, we scored a touchdown. We scored a touchdown." This was an active moment of big brother taking on a little brother in Bloomington, Indiana, and it was really sad for Illinois. It also honestly kind of reminded me of trying to tackle an inflatable noodle man that you see outside of a Verizon store. Even if you try to tackle it, it's just going to keep on flailing in the wind like nothing's even happening. So Indiana players, they refused to fall down. It was really impressive. And Indiana has a decent break before they play at Oregon. They will have to play at Iowa, which in some cases could be a trap game. In the cases that Iowa State beat them this year, I'm not as worried about it. But still, it's a game that you should look on the schedule and think, "Oh, yeah, we're playing Iowa this week. I should probably tune in." So definitely look out for that. Going over to the Big 12, Texas Tech beat Utah. And Utah was a team that a lot of people felt pretty confident going into this season. But right now, Tech is looking like the clear favorite in the Big 12. And again, it's the Big 12. It's the People's Conference. So you still can't count anybody out. Specifically, if I'm thinking about teams you can't count out, I'm looking at TCU and Josh Hoover. Josh Hoover can throw the ball. Their defense plays pretty solid games. So TCU could be a team that you see at the end of the year. Iowa State, a team I just mentioned, they already beat Iowa. What's stopping them from keeping this thing rolling? And looking back at that Kansas State game, that doesn't look like as good of a win as it did whenever it first was played. But Iowa State's still a solid team. If we're thinking about Houston, do you know who's playing quarterback for Houston this year? That would be none other than former 5-star Connor Wegman out of Texas A&M. Houston has beaten Colorado, and it's Colorado. It's not that big of a deal, but still, Houston has a winning streak. They're still undefeated on the season, so look out for them. And then you can't ever count out the Mormons. The Mormons are always cooking up something in Utah. BYU will be playing this week, so make sure you tune into that. Also, some other notable results. Michigan beat Nebraska. The score was closer than the game felt, but I still think it's a solid performance for Nebraska. I think it shows that they're getting closer to being able to hang with the big boys in the conference. And while it was a loss at the end of the day, sometimes a close loss is better than a blowout. And in this case, I think this is a rare case where a close loss was better than a blowout. So Nebraska still has an opportunity to make a little bit of noise. They could still make the playoff. This is only a one-loss team, but it does make it a little bit more difficult when you've lost to another one-loss team. Missouri beat South Carolina. This was South Carolina's second loss of the year, and Sellers was back, but the team around him just doesn't seem to be enough. I don't know if we're hitting a point in their schedule where they're just kind of, well, we lost one game. We thought we were going to win them all this year. We lost another game. What's stopping us from losing the next game? And I don't know if that's a compounding figure, but it's something to be aware of. And then also Syracuse beat Clemson. And Clemson is starting to look like a stinker, but the main headline from this game is that Syracuse's quarterback Steve Angeli tore his Achilles and he will be out for the season, which unfortunately will really affect the Fran Brown-run Syracuse team. We'll see who he has waiting in the wings, and with it being an ACC schedule, you never can really count them out if they can get a quarterback whose IQ is higher than the room temperature, but we'll see. That's week 4. Let's think about where we're going. Let's think about who's the best in the country. Let's think about why we even do this in the first place. And why would we talk about college football if to not rank the top 10 teams in the country on pretty much bias? And that's exactly what I'm going to go do today. I've been getting comments on the Instagram. Oh, Ethan, why do you have Texas at number 8? Why is Florida State top 10? Well, I'm going to explain it today. So, at number 10, we got Florida State. Their last 2 games were against FCS teams, but the win over Bama looks better and better and better by the week. This week, or upcoming next week, they have a huge test against Miami. But don't forget about this week. Florida State plays at Virginia on Friday night, and the line is pretty low. Do I think the line determines everything in a college football game? No, that's why we play the games. But it's something to look out for this week. So Florida State's at number 10. Number 9, we've got Texas A&M. Their final drive against Notre Dame was very impressive. And while their defense could use some work, Marcel Reed has the ability to lead a great offense. And he could work on some accuracy, but he's going up against a quarterback this week in Jackson Arnold that also needs to work on his accuracy. But Marcel Reed at least seems a little bit more aware of what's going on in the pocket. It doesn't seem like his brain cells dissipate as soon as 4-man rush him. So we'll see what they're able to do against Auburn this week. And overall, the program feels like it has some juice. They're bringing back old logos. They have the script helmets right now. They look like they're ready to play behind Mike Elko, and it's a good sight to see after kind of the boring nature of A&M that we saw during the Jimbo Fisher era. So, got Texas A&M at number 9. At number 8, Texas A&M fans are going to love this. We got Texas. And so you may be thinking, why is Texas ranked so high? Well, they've allowed a total of 24 points through 4 games. And I'm aware most of them were against small state schools, but holding Ohio State to 14 is still impressive at the end of the day. And with the talent roster that they have and with their ability to run the ball, I'm still pretty confident in Texas. So got Texas at number 8. Got Oklahoma at number 7. This ranking was made pre-Mateer hand injury. If you want to see the rankings, they were uploaded on Instagram before this was filmed. So go follow over there at What Dudes Want to Hear. But the defense is still a force to be reckoned with, guys. They had 10 sacks in the game, and I don't care if it was against Jackson Arnold, who, I think butterflies just pop into his head as soon as he drops back. But they still got 10 sacks nonetheless. They set the school record. And QBs will need to get the ball out quick against them. And in this college game, whenever you're forcing QBs to get the ball out quick, I feel a lot more confident in the playmaking ability on the defensive side to bat a ball down, to have a linebacker catch a pick, to force a fumble. So if OU's defense can win games and if OU's defense can stop the run, they could remain in the top 10. Am I less confident in them now that John Mateer has gone down for the foreseeable future? Yes. Am I fully out on them? No. So Oklahoma at number 7. At number 6, we've got Oregon. So this season, Oregon is looking very solid. They will have a major test against Penn State this weekend, which we will be breaking down later in the show. But we need to see what Dante Moore can do against a competitive, gritty defense. I guarantee you, Penn State isn't going to be giving up the same type of yardage that Northwestern was whenever Oregon was playing them. So Oregon's really going to be tested this week, and I'm excited to see it. But for right now, with the performances they've put on the field, I see no reason not to put them high up in this list. At number 5, we have LSU. And the reason LSU has been steadily dropping over the past couple weeks is that Clemson win just looks worse by the day. And at Garrett Nussmeier, their star quarterback, has been hurt for a little bit. But as he's, had the tune-up game against Southeast Louisiana, he's starting to look a little bit more like himself again, which for LSU fans is a great sight to see. And at the end of the day, I still believe Florida was a good win, but I would like to see them score more points. Their defense has looked incredibly solid, and for Brian Kelly's entire tenure at LSU, that hasn't necessarily been the case. So if the offense can figure it out, LSU will be a force to be reckoned with in the SEC. So got LSU at number 5. At number 4, man, we got Georgia. That Block G just continues to dominate opponents. This is a team that can win in multiple ways, and Gunner has the arm necessary to win shootouts. Gunner Stockton being their quarterback, and quick side note, Gunner is possibly the best name I've ever heard for a quarterback. Whenever I think of a guy named Gunner playing quarterback, I imagine Iron Man, where he has the cannon just kind of, walked into his arm and go down the field. And that's what he was able to do against Tennessee. I'm never worried about their defense's ability to lock in. So Georgia got them at number 4. At number 3, we have Penn State. And I want to ask y'all a question. What do we actually know about Penn State? Sure, you've got lots of returners. You've got a solid coach. You've got a defensive coordinator that you just stole from a national championship winning team. You've got an offensive coordinator that somehow resurrected Kansas's offense a couple of seasons ago. If we're not building it to a national championship now, when are we building to a national championship? Because if it's not this season, I genuinely don't know when it is. When else should we think that Penn State is going to be able to do this? They, in the past, haven't been able to extend the ball down the field. Supposedly this year they have new wide receivers and they will be able to do that. But so far, on passes of 20 yards or more, Drew Aller's 2 for 9 right now. So can we see a Penn State ability to get down the field, to stretch down the field? And going up against Oregon, you're going to need to be able to do that. Oregon has a stingy defense, and you got to be able to win in multiple ways to eventually win a national championship in the NCAA, in the FBS, period. So Penn State, I have you high. I like your coaches. I like your quarterbacks. I like your game style. Don't get me wrong with any of that. Haven't played anybody yet, though. So you're at number 3. At number 2, got Miami. The Miami Hurricanes, man. Carson Beck, he's a multi-year starter doing multi-year starter things. And with a defense that can actually make stops, Miami, man, something's brewing down there in Coral Gables. And if they can, keep on the beaten path for ACC play against Florida State in a few weeks, whenever they're playing SMU, whenever they're playing Pitt, I see no reason why Miami can't win an ACC championship. I see no reason why Miami shouldn't be in the top 4 seeding of the playoff this year. So, yeah, give me Miami at number 2. And at number 1, Ohio State. Win over Texas, incredibly solid. Honestly, the win over Ohio University looks incredibly solid now that we know they can beat a team like West Virginia. So Ohio State looks really good this season. Julian Sayin has had some really good games. Their defense, they have one of the best defensive players in the nation, and they also have one of the best offensive players in the nation. That's pretty much become a cliche at this point, but guys, it's the truth. So Ohio State at number 1. Do you know where Ohio State plays this week? They play at Washington. And this is a average Big Ten travel across the country kind of game. And for this game, Ohio State's going to have to buck up and figure it out. And I think they do possess that ability, but Washington isn't a chump. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. And so if we're thinking this week, oh man, I'm not really doing anything on Saturday. I guess I could, watch College Game Day in the morning, and then, 11 comes around. Well, I guess I could watch college football then, and then, 2:30 passes by, and, well, I guess I can watch a little bit more college football now. And then, oh man, it's dinner time. It's 6:30. Well, I've watched college football all day already. Why wouldn't I keep watching college football? And so if you're doing that and you have not only one TV in your living room, but 2 TVs, as the Lord intended, this is your dual screen setup for the week. So at 11 a.m., you're going to have USC versus Illinois on the first big TV. At 11 a.m. So this is an opportunity to watch Jordan Mailata, who is USC's quarterback, who's been balling this year. And it's a good question game for Illinois. Can they rebound? So have that on your big screen. Also at 11 a.m., Notre Dame at Arkansas. If you're thinking about this, what do you think the spread would be? Maybe Notre Dame by 10, Notre Dame by 15. Well, the spread's currently 3.5 for Notre Dame. And so I'm not saying to put it on an upset alert. I'm not saying this is going to be a super close game. I'm just saying it's something to think about. Maybe they know something that we don't know. So Notre Dame and Arkansas, have that on. Have that on this week. All right, at 2:30, we got LSU at Ole Miss. Last year, LSU somehow managed to beat Ole Miss in a game where they didn't even lead in the score for a second. So going into this game, Ole Miss has had an interesting quarterback situation. So they started the quarterback, Austin Simmons, at the beginning of the season, thinking, he's just going to ball out this year. And then all of a sudden, boom, he goes down. So, all right, let's think about who's next. We got a guy named Trinidad Chambliss. And even with Austin Simmons not on the injury chart this week, Trinidad Chambliss should be starting. And so if we're thinking about this game, will LSU be able to run the ball? They haven't really been able to do it so far this year. So Ole Miss is currently a 1.5-point favorite. And thinking about LSU's offense again, will LSU look like a recent LSU offense, or will the defense have to try to win while they throw the ball all over the field? And I have confidence in Garrett Nussmeier. I think he does have the ability to throw it all over the field, but if you're going first down, throw, second down, throw, third down, throw, oh, we got a first down, throw, second down, throw, third down, throw, oh, we're out, fourth down, we got to have Garrett throw it again. That's not a game that I think LSU can win, because I think Ole Miss is eventually going to catch on. Lane Kiffin has some brain cells, as much as people would like to think he doesn't. There's a reason he's coaching in the SEC, and there's a reason he has high win seasons. So with this game, I think it could go either way, but ultimately at the end of the day, I am going to take Ole Miss in this game. I think Ole Miss is the more complete team right now, and so give me Ole Miss. Also, during the afternoon, we have Auburn at Texas A&M. Auburn's kind of in a wounded animal mode, and A&M is coming off of a big momentum game, and will be playing at home. And if you haven't been to Kyle Field, man, you need to check that off your bucket list, because that is one of the greatest environments in all of college football. It doesn't matter that they haven't won a national championship since World War II. It doesn't matter that Johnny Manziel is probably the most problematic Heisman winner in, honestly, ever. What matters is that whenever there's 102,000 screaming fans in College Station at Kyle Field, that's a difficult place to play. And also, the Aggies are coming off a bye, and last year the Aggies played really well off byes, and whenever we're thinking about this game, either Jackson Arnold or Marcel Reed will have to hit the throws down the field that they just haven't been able to hit yet. And I personally believe that Marcel Reed will most likely be able to do it better. So I'm going to take Texas A&M in this game. I think if it was at Auburn, I'd think about it a little bit differently. But with it being for the Aggies, with it being off a bye, with it being a competitive game where, they have the potential to really get after the quarterback, I trust A&M in this spot to be able to do it. And I hope they don't betray my trust. So Aggies, prove me right this weekend. That's all I got to say. Prove me right. You've watched college football all day. It's 5:30 p.m. You just put some more burgers on the grill, and all of a sudden you realize, wow, we get to watch a whiteout game tonight because Oregon is going to Penn State this Saturday night. This is Dante Moore versus Drew Aller. And can Oregon stop the Penn State run defense? What haven't we seen from Penn State? They haven't played great competition, and Oregon looks good, but can they attack Penn State's defense? Dante Moore is an interesting story. He is the quarterback for Oregon, but he didn't start out there. He started at UCLA, where he played entire season as a true freshman. Really impressive. Great game experience. And he played that season, and he thought, well, I think the grass could be greener at a place like Oregon. So he transfers to Oregon. Lo and behold, a week later, Dillon Gabriel transfers in there. And so with Dillon Gabriel has the opportunity to mentor a guy like Dante Moore that will eventually be the starter, and now he is the starter. So with this game, is this mentoring from Dillon Gabriel able to rub off? Is Dante's more time in being able to explore the system? Will that pay off? And those are the questions I have going into the game. And so at the end of the day, this game is nearly impossible to pick, but I'm taking Penn State because Penn State, again, they're at home. They have the whiteout. For lack of a better term, there's just a certain kind of aura that comes from those whiteout games, and I think Penn State will be able to capitalize it on this Saturday. So go ahead and give me Penn State. All right, and last but not least, we have one of the biggest rivalries in all of college football without even having ever been in the same division of the SEC. We have Alabama at Georgia. Georgia has won 33 straight games at home, and Bama has notably struggled on the road. But last year, Alabama versus Georgia was possibly the game of the year. If you're thinking about Ryan Williams, where does his best tape come from? The Georgia game. If we're thinking about Jalen Milroe's ability to put the team on his back, where does that idea come from? It comes from the Georgia game. And with Bama struggling on the road, I'm interested to see, can Bama figure it out in a toxic environment? Can Bama figure it out at a place where a lot of opponents' dreams go to die? And so it is also interesting because Georgia has been able to win games in multiple ways. They've won rock fights. They've won shootouts. And with that being said, I think Alabama's quarterback, Ty Simpson, he's going to have to play a perfect game, which we've seen he has the ability to do. But I see this game very similarly to the Georgia-Tennessee game, and at the end of the day, I think Georgia has the edge at home. So give me Georgia at the end of the day. We'll call it flat like that. And so with that being said, just some final leans. I'm not a betting man, but if I was, these are the bets I'd take. I'd take FSU minus 6.5 at Virginia. FSU has blown out everybody, Bama and the FCS schools. While this is their first away test, I still believe Florida State has the ability to walk in your trap and take over your trap, for lack of a better term. So give me Florida State minus 6.5. Vanderbilt plays Utah State this week, and they're minus 21.5. And after the splattering that they had against Georgia State, and with the chip on their shoulder they're playing with, the way they're behind Diego Pavia this season, I have no reason to doubt why they wouldn't be able to cover against a Utah State. So give me Vanderbilt minus 21.5. We're also going to go Indiana minus 7.5, Tennessee minus 7.5, because Tennessee plays at Mississippi State. And while Mississippi State has shown the ability to stay competitive with an Arizona State team, I don't think they'll have the ability to stay competitive with Tennessee. And I'm sending so much love to Jeff Lebby, their coach out there. I'm sending so much love to Blake Shapen, their quarterback out there. Sending so much love to Andrell Anthony, who caught the game-winning touchdown against Arizona State. But Tennessee's better. Give me Tennessee -7.5. I talked about this game a little bit earlier. Notre Dame at Arkansas, -3.5 feels like way too low of a number for me to think anything of, especially since they already have 2 losses on the season. I think Notre Dame's going to come out playing with their hair on fire, and Sam Pittman at Arkansas, their head coach, he's coaching for his job right now, and whenever he's coached for his job in the past, it seems like it's ruined his ability to coach at the end of the day. So give me Notre Dame -3.5. And last but not least, Ohio State plays at Washington this week. And while I think Washington has a great squad, while I think Washington has the ability to be competitive in this game, I don't think they're going to be able to be competitive to not lose by more than a touchdown. So I'm going to take Ohio State -7.5 in this game. With that being said, that's all I got. I appreciate y'all so much for listening. If you haven't yet, go ahead and follow us on the socials. That's where you get the pick'ems for the week. That's where you see my rankings before they come out. That's where you see my week superlatives for the week. If you want to know who the best quarterback in the country this week was, if you want to see who my Heisman pick is every single week, go ahead and follow at What Dudes Want to Hear on Instagram. Subscribe on YouTube. Like the show on Spotify. We appreciate you so much for listening. God bless. We'll see you Saturday.